Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. Today we're calling it Words Wednesday. Thank you very much, Dawn. The L&D Talk Blab. Every day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, or within the 8 o'clock hour, as I like to say, because it doesn't always start right at 8 o'clock. But we will get in Monday through Friday, somewhere between 8 and 9. And have a conversation about learning and development. Tom, thanks for joining me today. And
good morning, Brent.
Who else do we have? And Dawn's in the live chat. And we've got Irby and Craig and Mark and another Mark. Outstanding. It's a good day. So I'm Brent Schlenker. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at litmus.com. And I'm going to roll this real quick before we jump in.
Most people view training as irrelevant. Trainers compete with training schedules and training schedules. Of learning.
It's kind of fun that we can talk over videos now, which is cool.
Talk over videos isn't using your words.
Yes, exactly. Because it's Words Wednesday. So what's the first word we're going after, Don? I believe it was learners. Why don't we want to call them learners? Do you remember her blog post, Tom?
It's been a while since I read it. I actually had one as well back then. I guess I've kind of let up a little bit on my position because I used to feel that when you call the people that you serve in our industry learners, then you're putting them into a box and you're assuming that they're going to learn, right?
Yeah.
But when you force somebody into a training program, there's nothing that says they are going to learn, and you don't really know what they do learn unless you test it and assess it. You look at the performance improvement.
Yeah, and really it's kind of like, if we're just calling the people that we serve learners, does that mean other people aren't learners? I mean, okay. What's the non-example, right?
Well, I guess I've had that experience. I mean, I've been in the classroom facilitating, trying to get people to be better presenters, and every once in a while you get somebody who's been assigned to take this course and they just don't want to be there, and they're doing everything they can to not learn. It's ridiculous. They're investing their time. Why are they not learning something? I mean, come on.
Yeah, they fight it tooth and nail. So I forget what JD's point was, and gosh darn it, where is that JD when you need him? Exactly, Don. Maybe we should do a Google search and see if we can find blog posts. Let's see. Let's Google, don't call them learners. It looks like Mark Rosenberg has the same feelings. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so since the industry is steering towards more of performance based, do we call them performers?
That's a good one.
Okay. So Don says Jane Hart feels very strongly, and Patty Shank as well, against calling them learners. We should call it course subjugation. Perfect, Craig. Yes. Maybe, I don't know. So what do we call them? Let's put aside all of the learning and instructional design and what we call the people we suppress. And just from a business standpoint, what does the business call them, right? So the business calls most of the people, if we're internal, we're their employees. If we do customer training,
Partners.
We're training our customers. I think I lost your audio, Tom.
Do you have audio now?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, okay. Potential learners. Yes, it's like potential energy, right? Didn't we learn that in physics? Tom, you can speak to that probably best. What does the business call them? Irby's got a good link in there. Oh, whoa, check that out. It's a pin open. Whoa. Cool. Okay, this is new in Blab. So somebody puts a link into the live chat. When I roll my mouse over it as the host, I get an option to either pin it, which pops it into one of these boxes, or just open it in another browser window.
Very cool.
They are just cranking the updates on this thing like nobody's business. But anyways, all right. So learners, have we beaten this one? So why we don't call them learners? We don't know what we do call them. Should we just move on to another word? Because JD was the one that started this whole thing. And since he's not here, all right, Irby says yes. That's a consensus in my mind. So what's the next word, Irby? What other word does our industry struggle with? I've got one queued up in my head, but.
That's a good one, you think.
Okay, developer versus designer. Irby, might have to have you jump in here to define efficient if you want. But, oh, that's your favorite word. Got it. Well, all right. So let's talk about developer designer then. That's a good one. So let's see. I think here's my take on it. Developers probably more technical, create content, and probably use authoring tools more than designers do, and actually crank out the final product. And designers do more of the analysis of the audience and the content, and put together the design documentation to then hand off to the developer to have the developer execute on the design. How does that sound?
That's good by me. I know an awful lot of people who are developers who think they're designers.
Yes.
They're designer developers, but they're really just developers.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But that's okay, right? I mean, that's part of our industry. It's
and I know that the language is the language that it is, but I like the term producer because it's more of the stuff that you're actually cranking out. I mean, if you're somebody who delivers product in the end, you're a producer.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I love it. I love it. Absolutely. So
Don's got it.
Perhaps.
Don's got it there. Did you read?
No, what'd she say? First clue is I love their tools most.
I have somebody in mind with that exact thought. And we'll leave it at that. Yes, we do all know them.
Oh, but so okay. So we have developers, we have designers. I want to take this down Tom's path. I love the idea of calling us producers, right? Learning content producers, I think, is a nice generic term, because that way we don't, there isn't a good, a label applied of either right or wrong or good or bad. You're just producing content.
Well, there's also the confluence of the tools. I mean, the tools of the e-learning folk it's always been in the, we're going to put these things on a timeline and we're going to have these scenes and it's going to go from one to the other and things moving on a stage. And the tools are moving basically toward video tools too. And, the video editors that we use it's just another tool to produce a product that you can use to hopefully learn people.
Well, and
I had to say that. Sorry.
Right. Well, the same thing can be applied to imaging tools, right? Like Photoshop or Pixelmator, or is that what I have here on my Mac? Pixelmator, yeah. Or even Word documents, right? Or any sort of text, anything you can create, anything you can use to create content. If you're creating that content with the purpose of it being used for somebody to learn something new, then you're producing learning content, right?
In the language of the industry, yes. It's back to that learning content. I mean, it's
maybe not in the language of the traditional industry, but maybe in the new industry that's coming up. Right?
It's training content.
Designer has cachet, and many have studied design, get to be called one. Yes. Does the designer have the right to tell the developer that their ideas are good, but implementation should be different than their suggestion, or page turners suck? Do something different. Yes, but isn't that the designer's responsibility? Maybe. Should the designer be very specific in what media gets produced and how that media is produced? That's the pregnant pause right there.
It's a big pause.
Don says, should be a collaboration, not a fight. Absolutely. Everything should be a collaboration, especially if you're on a team.
But is it?
But it should be, but is it? Correct. So let's look at the work that we do in a lot of situations. So I would venture to guess that in most scenarios, most workplace scenarios, the designer is also the developer and vice versa. It's a wearing of the same hats. I think in larger companies, you might have developers on a team and designers on a team, and they work together or across functions. But then in other situations, you might have the developer being a consultancy, and the workplace just has the designer on staff. And so they design it, but then they ship out the actual production of the work. Does that sound about right?
I'm not seeing applause. Does that mean that nobody agrees? I don't know.
Yay. Just give me some props, people. Give me some props. Oh, look. Somebody likes what I'm saying.
A lot.
All right, Don agrees.
Yeah, what you're saying in general, I think, is what I've seen. And so the developer also thinks of themselves as a designer, or the designer develops, and their skill may be in more in one camp than in the other camp, but they typically have, at least from what I've seen, that whole responsibility. But back to the word producer, as I might be the person sponsoring, I might be the actual producer, but I might not be the designer or the developer, and that's been the case several times in the past.
Yeah. So what if we still kind of walked down that path a little bit? So if we go with the word producer, would that perhaps mean that the designer is the executive producer?
I think we're splitting hairs, but yeah, probably. Well, no. Let me think about that. The designer would be the executive producer? No. The executive producer is putting up the money, right? My boss is my executive producer.
Okay. So maybe your training manager is the executive producer, or would it be the subject matter expert?
I guess it depends on who's responsible for assuring the quality of the final products.
Who's paying the money? The money guy. So
I mean, I'm usually the one who's reviewing and complaining that I'm not getting what I asked for, and fighting back and forth where it should be a collaboration. It's just not.
Who do you have to approach to ask for what you need?
Who do I have to approach?
Yeah, your manager,
I have to work through my management to work across organizations to other managers.
So it could be. So I would say in like a let's say in a product training situation, it would probably be the actual product team that would be responsible, right? At the end of the day, because they'd be putting up the money, because it would be coming out of, you'd be doing it for the sake of the product, as opposed it's not coming out of the HR budget. But if you're doing internal training, it's coming out of the HR budget. So your executive producer is probably your director of HR. Splitting hairs, right? But we're just throwing out ideas.
You got to fill up the space.
It seemed like such a good topic yesterday. Think we were on the same time. Okay. Yeah. What session was that? Don, what session did you do at DevLearn? I'm waiting.
Smackdown to Nirvana.
Nice. I know, Don. Sorry, I don't mean to pressure you. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining. We need some fresh voices in the live chat. Oh, cool. Did it at LSCon too. So it must have gone well. It must have gone well. So, okay. So here we go. So let's jump off the producer bandwagon for a second. Let's go to another word. Let's go to training. I know this one is exceptionally loaded. I've heard people in the past say that we shouldn't use the term training because training is what you do with your dog. Or training is what you do in the military, or it's and I think those people making those points were talking more about just it being very strict and more behavioral modification as opposed to real engaged learning. I don't know.
Training is training. I don't really have a problem with the word. And I don't completely agree that people are so self-motivated that they will learn on their own. I mean, look at an environment like Starbucks. I go to my local Starbucks and I see new faces and they are being trained. They're learning the business, but there's a formal training program that they use. It's a very distributed training program. Right, but it's still nonetheless mastered. It's been engineered. It's been created from the top and then distributed across the organization, so that every store has a process that they use that's equivalent. So that when you go to a Starbucks in Southern California, you're getting the same experience as if you go to a Starbucks in Wisconsin.
So why did training get such a bad rap? I agree. I mean, and it looks like everybody in the chat does too. But why in the history of our industry did we feel all of a sudden like we didn't like being training professionals anymore? We felt like we needed to be learning professionals. And even like you were saying, our professional associations even decided to move away from the term training. Why did that happen?
Well, I remember back in that day when that was the era of the corporate university, and corporate universities were coming into vogue and everybody had to have one. But the corporate university is based on the classic university model, the idea that you're going to go to some place and you're going to learn. But in general, you go to a university to learn. I mean, you're motivated to learn. You have to get grades or you're not going to graduate. And then in the corporate environment, you don't have that. And that motivation is, you got a job to do. That's what's motivating you. You got to get your paycheck. So getting more, going and learning more is a challenging thing, I think. Some people, and then you've got the inequities in the workplace where not everybody does the same level of work and all that other kind of stuff. So I don't know what why you can't be trained in that environment, but it turned into, hey, we want you to learn.
Yeah,
so we're going to learn you.
Yeah, I think Mark has a good point. It may be in the goals and the expectation and the results and the gaps therein, I think is an interesting way to think about it. We wanted to be more in the business. I think right about that same time, I think things started to change, right? Corporate universities started going a little bit out of favor because they were so pricey, so expensive to maintain and to keep going. When everything started moving to digital, and we also started realizing that a lot of the really good learning and actual training happened on the job and in the workplace as opposed to away in a classroom. Maybe that was one of the things that started driving us more towards, we don't want to be pigeonholed as just the training department. We'd rather be seen as the group that has an impact on everybody's ability to learn. And it's the learning that then has a positive effect and a positive impact on the business.
Back at that time, that I think, as I recall, the same time that the corporate universities were first coming into being, or were in vogue for the most part, is the same time that we were going digital. I mean, back then it was CBT, then it was WBT, right, web-based training, and then at some point after that, it just sort of all became e-learning, which is actually, that's still my biggest gripe, is calling a product learning. I still have a problem with that. I've never embraced that in the almost 20 years I've been in the business.
Yeah.
It still bugs me.
Yeah. It kind of, I think in the early days, I think I was one of those people who was totally on board with learning, but I was on board and pushing it in the sense that I thought we needed to, have a larger impact on learning and be more involved in helping people to learn. But I don't think I ever strayed from the idea that we don't create learning. We don't, that only happens within the learners or the employees or whomever, whatever we're going to call these people that we impact. But we create environments or experiences or products that we hope will influence and affect somebody's ability to learn positively. But it's never just that one product that is the end of the learning process, right? I'll go back to my old phrase of training is an event and learning is a process, and it's a long-term process. And I think that belongs in the learner. The training and the building of the product belongs in our department and in our our realm. That's what we do. I think we build that content, we produce, right? We're producers of the learning content that people then use however they want to hopefully learn and to perform better. All right, Dawn's with me. Phew, I'm glad I'm hitting hitting the mark. But you know what I want to do? I want to dial back really quick because I heard a couple people say through the chat, oh, thank you for the props. That's an excellent way to give me the claps. I appreciate that. The corporate university thing. So yes, I hear that a lot, even in our customers that purchase Litmus, for example, when they're building out the product, it becomes their university. And before I even started working for Litmus, the training department that I cranked up, they were a bit insistent on us calling it a university as well, when really it was just sort of, it ended up being, you know, the Litmus front end was a portal to all of the learning, but the term university was still used. So I think we use that term just because it sounds impressive today, but I don't think it's the same thing as what you and I are talking about, Tom, back in the day when we changed stuff. Because, I mean, I literally remember, like, let's take Motorola University, for example, here in Arizona. I remember they had their own building, a gigantic office complex that was about the size of many small universities, that was Motorola University, with classrooms, hallways, administrative staff, shipping and receiving. I mean, the whole 9 yards, anything you could possibly think of that was needed to run a physically located university. That's what Motorola University was. And I think back then, a lot of big companies did that, right?
Well, our company's not that big, but we did that. We basically had our own place. I mean, it wasn't its own building, but we had our own space in a building. And when you walk down the hallway, you would look up and you would see the Aerospace Institute sign. And people would say that I'm here in the Institute, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect, though. I like the term institute, by the way. I think actually that's what we ended up calling IO's online learning presence. I think it was IO Institute, if I remember correctly. But, you know, I don't know. It's just something I wanted to throw out there. So if the place, whether it's virtual or whether it's physical, has all of the administrative components of the university function, or then is it still okay to call it a university or an institute? Does it have to have a physical location? Let's say there's no physical location.
I would think not. I don't see any reason that it would have to have a physical location. We are still called the Aerospace Institute. That is still the name of our organization, but we're not the same organization that we were when it was founded 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's the case with everybody. I think we've all moved virtual, right? I mean, I think the cloud has helped that along. You know, that I guess that is the biggest sign of the times, right? If there was ever any sort of visual representation of the historical shift in corporate training, it's that a lot of the physical locations were reduced or completely eliminated in favor of virtual online universities or institutes. It's not that we don't do classroom training anymore. We still do a lot of instructor-led training, right? I mean,
we do a lot of instructor-led training. Again, because of what we do, and we're such a diverse, very technical organization with a lot of different fields of specialization. We have experts in one field who want to learn from experts in another field. And you can't do that by packaging it online. You can't really do that even in a virtual environment well, because people actually want to meet and they actually want to talk and they want to collaborate in a classroom environment. And we've tried to push that off to online, and yeah, it webinars, or if that's an appropriate word to use, work sometimes, but it doesn't work for everything. And it doesn't give you that collaborative spirit when you get together and you're actually working on a project in a class environment with other people and you've got the expert there to facilitate. That's the only way that works best in our organization for highly technical education.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. I think I think it was a bit naive of us, and when I say us, I completely include myself in this, to believe that the classroom would ever completely go away. But I was definitely on that bandwagon 15, 20 years ago too, saying that we were, digital and technology was going so quickly away from the classroom that we soon wouldn't need teachers or instructors anymore, that we could do everything online. And I have since done a complete 180 and realized that whole blend, I guess is what we're calling it. There's another word I guess we should probably throw out, the blended learning.
Oh. I've had arguments at work about that term.
I know.
Just throw the word out in a non-training environment and expect people to understand what you.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. It's just good design, right? These days it's utilizing your whole toolkit and supporting the learning process, as opposed to just creating one training event. At least that's how I see it, right? If you take all of the new little technologies that are in our toolkit and apply several of them towards the same end goal, I believe that's what we refer to as blended learning, but I don't think it needs to be called blended learning. I don't think it needs to be called anything else outside of our realm. I think it's just good design. But I've had that stance refuted, I guess, or battled against a couple times as well. So change is hard.
So since I brought up this subject, I guess one of the things that's always fascinating to me is, I do feel like I work in an environment that's fairly dissimilar from a lot of other people who are in our field. I mean, so the sense that we've got these, 2,000 or so people in our company are technical experts of some form or another. Some of them support customers directly, and so they have to reach in, get the really deep technical specialists and that sort of thing. And that's fairly different from, say, a bank, where you have branches across the country and you've got the same function that's being performed in all of those branches, and you have to have some standardization and training. It's just a very different thing. Or the Starbucks example.
Yeah.
It's a different thing from having this, crazy environment where you've got people who are coming in with masters and PhDs, and you expect them to know their stuff, but now they want to learn other stuff, and they want to learn from others and understand how what they do affects what the other person does.
Yeah, and which is amazing. You would think that would be like all, but I think it is your colleagues and peers are at a much different level than, say, the Starbucks workers getting trained on the line, or in some other industry where it's the exact same function, exact same identical job spread out across a bunch of different locations. I think that ends up being very different than anything else. Oh, and look who just decided to show up.
JD, were your ears burning?
Somebody must have been pinging JD offline. Welcome anyways. We were actually talking about you.
Yes, work and stuff.
Hey, this is stuff. This is stuff. You should be here for this
stuff.
No, this is good stuff, though. I mean, I really do. I mean, I think we kind of joke about all of this, and it's, I think we all tend to talk about it so much that it sometimes just becomes silly, but I think it's important. I think how I think the points we were making yesterday, that words are important. I truly believe that, in the sense that how we communicate as an industry together, in our little bubble, but then also what words and how do we communicate outside of that bubble to our customers, to our, clients, to our management, to just about anybody that's out there.
Right. Well, but that's that whole context thing, right? I mean, if you're talking to people who understand, for example, Paul brought up the word gamification. I used to have an issue with the word. I no longer have an issue with the word if it's used in the context with people understanding what that means and that appreciation that gamification is not adding game elements to a course or a program. And so I don't really have a problem with the word anymore, but to just use that outside of our industry makes no sense, because you have to explain that. You have to have a conversation. It's not something that I'm preaching to the choir here, right? I mean, we've all been there. We all know that you have to communicate effectively outside of our organization. You have to convey your value proposition to the rest of the organization. You have to understand what the business is doing. I mean, we know that, but yet we still go and throw these terms out, or at least some of us do. And
we run out there.
The rest of us are guilty by association.
Design and blah blah blah, and methodologies and models. Hey, I want to say hey to my friend Brian Fanzo, Mr. iSocial Fans. Good to see you, my friend. If you're interested in jumping in and talking shop, we're going to be here for probably about another 10 minutes. I know part of your social strategy stuff involves a little bit of training. So, your take is always welcomed, and a unique take at that. So if you're interested in jumping in, awesome. Or if you just want to hang out and listen in, that's cool too. I'll tell everybody that's here, you should go follow iSocial Fans if you are into the whole social, all of this technology that's coming along. Brian was the guy that got me dialed into Blab even. I think I was watching one of his periscopes one day and he was pointing at Blab and I saw the 4 boxes and I was blown away. I was like, what software is doing that? That is awesome. And he sent me the link, and now we're here doing this every morning at 8 o'clock, which is good stuff. So, hey, no worries, Brian. No worries. I'm here. I've decided to start doing this every morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So, and we just talk learning and development, corporate training. You know the drill. You know my shtick. So, today is Words Wednesday, we decided. And so we're trying to talk about some of these words that we use in our industry that are either loved, hated, or, Tom, what, indifferent?
I have become fairly indifferent to a lot of it because I've argued passionately on one or the other and had somebody just as passionately arguing the other point. And I've realized that, okay, it's still semantics.
Yeah.
Semantics, word choice, right?
Yeah, right. But like I said before, so, Brian, you're too kind. Thank you. I think it is important though, right? I've kind of gotten to the point too, where I tend to, shuffle it off and say, oh, it's just semantics, and people, we shouldn't even be talking about this. But like I said, I think it really is important that we try to work this stuff out, and having these conversations, I think, helps, new people in the industry, get spun up more quickly.
Yeah. But I got beat down over my loathing of the word e-learning. I got beat down over it, and people calling their product learning, and I gave up. I mean, okay, that's what you want to call it, great. But to use that outside of the industry still bothers me a lot.
Yeah. But, and a lot of people, I think e-learning has become so, I think it was our own fault for creating that word, but it was during the e-commerce, era, when I even think Intel like trademarked a whole bunch of words with the E in front of it, you know. I don't remember how many of the words, but everything had an E in front of it, right? And so we stuck e-learning, E in front of learning, and it's stuck. And I don't think it's going away, because now even kids in school are like, we're going to do an e-learning day, right? I see that all the time.
JD. His e-phone, pull up his e-Facebook. Exactly.
That's why I keep forgetting some people aren't going to be able to see this live chat if they're watching the video. So JD just had a great point that he's going to go look at his e-phone and pull up the e-Facebook and update his e-status. Everything. I once, we had some arguments going on for a while. This was years ago, over what that E stood for. Originally, it was electronic, back when digital was first becoming a thing. But the end of the day, what I tried to say that the E stood for everybody. I
tried to say.
I still kind of believe that, right? The E should stand for everybody, because everybody learns, right? Everybody has to learn. Everybody engages in learning. Learning happens, for everybody automatically. So if we're going to keep the damn E, let's just pretend that it means something else.
Well, how about I, right? I mean, Apple came up with the I. And I don't know what it really stands for to you. Is it for individual? Because then we could start applying that to a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to start labeling things.
JD's right. I think they use the I for internet.
I for internet. Okay. I still like individual. So we can have I-learning, which is individualized, personalized learning, because personalization is one of the latest things, right?
Learning is everybody learning.
There you go.
I like that.
But not everybody wants to learn.
But that's okay. But see, this is the interesting thing about human beings, right? Whether you want to learn or not, just the fact that you're taking in your environment and your senses, your brain is always learning.
So Irby has something interesting. The APA says that internet is now lowercase starting today. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I think he might be saying that tongue in cheek.
I have a feeling he's not.
Oh, he was being legit? Oh, Irby's got to drop off. Thanks for hanging out, Irby. I think you're already gone. Adios. You think he was legit? What's the somebody go check the APA online and see if that's true. Do a quick Google search. See what the deal is. Oh, I guess I can't pin something when something else is pinned. How do I get rid of that? Pin. Oh, there it goes. Wish I could put up two browsers since I have two boxes open. Oh, well. Oh, I can't get that link. Oh, there we go.
I didn't successfully find anything. I found a lot of stuff that argues that you should capitalize it because internet is a generic term of interconnected networks, but the internet is it's a proper noun, according to what I read. But APA has changed that. I didn't find a citation for that.
You know who we should ask is Grammar Girl. She would know, and she would be able to find out. Minion Fogarty. She would dial that in.
That was one of the hits I got on Google, but it's back from 2010. So if it just changed today, then obsolete.
May not be happening again. Well, listen, hey, we're coming up on that 9 o'clock hour. Does anybody else have any parting words for us? I'm killing it today. It's Word Wednesday, you know. Come on, people. Give me some props. Give me some props. Here we go. Come on. I made you laugh. Gamification. Oh, we forgot to do gamification. Dang it. All right. Well, we're going to let's have a blab one of these days that just talks about game design and learning and gamification, and we can roll all that stuff up into one conversation. Maybe we can do that tomorrow as we roll forward. But yes,
I will not join you tomorrow. not because I loathe the word gamification. I'm okay with it, as I think I've said. No, tomorrow I have an instructor-led course that's going on tomorrow.
Outstanding. Will you be delivering that course?
I will not be delivering that course, but I am the reason that it's being delivered. So I need to be there and monitor it and see how the very talented facilitator is doing.
Outstanding. Well, you'll have to report back and let us know how it goes. All right. So, Tom, you know, if you want people to find you, do you blog anywhere or
I blog at tom.spiglanen.com,
there
but
you
not
go.
as often as I'd like.
Well, I know that feeling, but tom.spiglanen.
All you have to do is know how to, well, I guess my Twitter handle is up there, so you can find me that way.
Oh, there you go. All right. So everybody look for at Tom Spiglanen or tom.spiglanen.com.
Yes, the Andrew Rankin went away, Don. Yeah, so my birth name was John Andrew Rankin, and so I was using that for a while, but I've converted over to spiglanen.com.
Ah, excellent. Okay, good deal. All righty, everybody. Well, I guess that'll do it for today. My name is Brent Schlenker. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at litmus.com. You can follow my blog at litmus, litmos.com/blog. You can follow us on Twitter at litmos. You can also follow my personal Twitter. You can follow me on Snapchat. I have not been snapping as much as I'd like to, but follow me on Schlearning, SCHLEARNING, world's worst Snapchat handle ever.
I'm sure you could come up with worse.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is. So, but it's fun. We've actually had a blab on Snapchat before, and it was good conversation. I really do think it's a very, very interesting, cool tool that we should all be looking at. I know not everybody's a big fan, but it's changed a lot since its early days. So if you're new to it, it'd be fun. So follow me there. It's good times. And so we'll do this again tomorrow. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Brent.
Okay, thanks for hanging out, Tom. I do appreciate you jumping in. Oh, I'll pause.